Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael and today we're going to be making cinnamon buns. I'm going to show you how to make these today and the frosting that goes on them. So stick with me. I'll show you how easy this is to make. Let's get started making our cinnamon rolls. First thing we're going to start off with is I'm going to bloom my yeast. This is something that I always do. It's not needed if you don't want to do that. But I've got my milk here. I've got a half a cup of milk and I've got it heated up to about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. We don't want it any hotter than that. So anywhere between 100 and 110 is perfect for that. Anything over 110 could potentially kill your yeast. And then I've got 2 1/4 teaspoons of my yeast, and I'm using the Fleischmann's instant dry yeast. I make a lot of bread, so I buy it in bulk like this, but you can get the little packets, and one of the little packets of the yeast that you get in the store is equivalent to 2 1/4 of this. So I'm going to add this to my milk. I'm going to give that a little stir through. And I'm going to set it to the side. I'm going to put a little bit of sugar in mine. So sugar is actually going into our mixture today. So I'm just going to put just a little bit in it. Yeast loves sugar, and that'll just help it activate just a little bit faster. I'll set that to the side, and we'll get going with our other ingredients. So we're going to be using my stand mixer today to mix everything in, and we're going to start out with 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, or if we're measuring it in grams, it's about 215 grams of flour, and I'm going to put that in my bowl. And then I've got right here, I've got a 1/4 cup of sugar, and like I said, I just took a little bit out of that to put into my milk. It's all going to go back in there together, so 1/4 cup of your sugar goes into your mixture. And then I've got a half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm just going to add that in. And then I'm going to take a whisk, and I'm just going to kind of whisk that through a little bit to get that mixed together. And now I'm going to wait for the yeast to bloom, and I'll be back in just a minute, and we'll show you what happens next. All right, we're back. My yeast has a good bloom on it, and then I've got 1 egg. You want your egg to be at room temperature. Everything just seems to cook better when you're baking goods with room temperature ingredients. So I've had 1 egg out on the counter here, and I just now cracked it to make sure that it was good. So I've got 1 egg for my mixture, and I've got 3 tablespoons of oil. This is a neutral vegetable oil, and then my milk. All right, so let's go ahead and add our ingredients together. We'll now add our egg. And then my oil. Now I'm going to turn that up on high, and I'm going to blend that for 3 minutes on high. I am back, and my mixture has been mixing now for 3 minutes, and I've got another 1/4 cup of flour that I'm going to put in. I'm going to turn this down to a lower setting, and I'm just going to blend this in until it gets mixed into the other ingredients. All right, my dough is mixed together. I'm going to turn this off, and then I'm going to scrape the sides of the bowl down to make sure that it all gets incorporated into it. And you can do one of 2 things. You can either knead it here in the stand mixer, or I'm going to knead it by hand and show you how to do that. All right, so we've got our dough. I'm going to take a little bit of flour, and I'm going to flour my surface because we're going to knead it out here on this wooden countertop. And then I'm going to turn my dough out onto the board. And this is a wet dough, so don't think that it's messed up when you start pulling it out of the bowl. All right, now that I've got my dough turned out on my cutting board here, I'm going to put just a little bit of flour on the top. I'm going to take my clean hands, and we're just going to kind of mash it out a little bit. Make sure that we get a little bit of flour on all of it. And then we're just going to kind of turn it in on itself. And we're going to knead this for about 5 minutes. Just a little bit more flour on it. All right, I'm going to continue kneading this, and I'll see you back in 5 minutes. All right, we are back. It's been about 5 minutes, and I've been kneading my bread, so I'm going to kind of roll it into a little ball. And you know it's done when you're kneading it, when you can put your finger in the top of it and it pops back on you. So we've got a good knead on that. And as you can see, a little bit of flour, I did keep adding just a little bit of flour to it, just to make sure that it wasn't sticking to my board. And I did get my bench press out here to kind of coax it along a little bit as the beginning there as I was kneading it, just because it was kind of sticking to the wooden board here. But after about 3 minutes, it finally stopped doing that, and I continued to knead it until I got to the consistency where I am now. So now we want to let this rest, and I've got just a bowl here that I'm just going to put over it, and I'm going to let it sit here on the countertop for about 10 minutes, and I'm gonna get my other ingredients together, and I'll be back and show you what we're gonna do next. All right, now while our dough is resting, I thought I would go ahead and make my brown sugar and cinnamon mixture while this is resting. The reason we're letting it sit for 10 minutes is after you need that, the gluten gets really tight and we want to be able to roll it out. So we need the dough to rest, and that's why it's sitting here right now doing that. So we're gonna mix our brown sugar and cinnamon together. So we'll have that mixture for our cinnamon buns. So I've got a 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. You can use dark if you like, it doesn't matter. And I'm gonna put that into a bowl. And then I've got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and I'm going to put that into the bowl also. Then I'm going to take the back of the knife and I'm just going to kind of mix it together. We don't want any lumps in there. After I pack the cinnamon in the measuring cup, it might have a few lumps in it. So all we're doing at this point is just integrating the cinnamon and the sugar together so we get a good mixture on that. So I'm going to continue to work on that. I'll let my dough sit here and rest for 10 minutes. And also, I've taken a 8-inch pan and I've buttered it. So you can use 8-inch or 9-inch, whichever one you want or whichever one you have. I've got 8-inch here. And make sure you butter the bottom and the sides. If you want to use a spray, you can do that also. That's perfectly fine. They make a spray that has a flour in it that you can spray on it for baking. That works just as well also. But I just used butter today and just took the stick and just wiped it around on the sides and the bottom. And then I've got 2 tablespoons that I've got sitting out here coming to room temperature, because once we get our dough kneaded out, we'll be spreading this out on there. So you want this to be really soft. So this definitely needs to be out for a while so that comes to room temperature. So I'm going to continue to work on my brown sugar and my cinnamon, and I'll be back and we'll get ready to roll our dough out. All right, now that I've got my cinnamon and my brown sugar mixed together, you can see what it looks like. It looks like, it's all integrated very well. Just the texture of sand is what we want it to look like. So I'm going to set that aside, and then we're going to take our dough, and I'm going to use my bench press. It should come up fairly easily, as you can see there. It's very pliable and just a really nice dough. I'm going to put some on my rolling pin. And I'm going to continue to roll this out. I want this into a rectangular shape of about 9 by 12. That way when I get ready to roll it up, it'll be, longer, and we'll be able to get 8 cinnamon rolls out of this. I'm going to continue to work on this, and I'll be back in just a minute. All right, my dough is in about the shape that I want it in. I'm going to kind of make it, pull the edges out on it here a little bit. If it wants to try to contract back on you a little bit, just let it rest for a little while, and then it'll loosen back up again. So definitely that's where we want that to be. It's about a 9 by 12. So what I've done now is I'm going to work on my butter. So like I said, I got 2 tablespoons of butter, and I want that to be able to spread really nicely. So I've let this come to room temperature, and I'm going to use the spatula here and just kind of blend it a little bit together. And you can see the consistency that I've got with that. It's very soft and it's going to spread. So we're going to spread that over the top of our dough now. We want to make sure we get all of that butter out of that bowl. All right, now I'm just going to take the side of the spatula here, and I'm just going to spread this butter out over this mixture. And we don't really need to come up to the edges. Get as close to it as you can. All right, so I've got a good coating on my butter. Like I said, I've got it almost to the edges. Got that all spread out. Now I'm going to take my brown sugar and cinnamon mixture, and I'm just going to put that on the top. And I'm going to take that same spatula and we're just going to spread that out evenly around it. All right, now that we've got our brown sugar and cinnamon mixture on there now, I'm going to take it and we're going to roll it up. So you don't want to roll it very tightly. And once we get up to this end up here, you can kind of straighten it out a little bit so that you can get the width of the dough at the same width as the other pieces of the mixture there. And there we go. That is how you do it. All right, so I've got two ways to do that. I'm going to cut the edges off of it here because nobody wants that raw dough. And I've just got a serrated knife here, just a steak knife. And I'm going to take that and cut that other side off also. And we're going to divide this into 8 pieces. So how we're going to do that is I'm just going to kind of take it and just kind of mark it in the middle. And then I'll take that and mark that in half. And then I'll take each one of those and mark those in half. And that should give me about 8 good size cinnamon rolls. So I learned this little hack, and we're going to take some dental floss. This is unflavored waxed dental floss. And we're going to take it and we're going to put it under the dough and just kind of bring it up to where the line is where you made the indent for the piece, and just give it a pull through, and that cuts your cinnamon roll. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to use this all the way through. If you don't have any dental floss, you can definitely just use the serrated edge knife, but this works just as easily as that does. So I'm going to continue to cut these up, and I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, we have our cinnamon rolls cut in half. Now I've got my 8-inch pan here that I've got. I've got my oven on 350, and I'm just going to place these in there because we're going to let these sit out for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We want these to rise. And I'm going to put these in my pan here, evenly space them out. Now that I've got my cinnamon rolls evenly spaced in my pan, I've got some cling film on the top of them. I'm going to put these in my microwave. It's a little bit warmer in there than it is out here on the counter. We want these to rise. So I'm going to let these rise for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. What we want them to do is just come up to the top of the cling film. We don't want to get them really high on that. So these will rise for the next hour and a half to 2 hours, and I'll be back and we'll show you what we're going to do next. All right, I am back. It's been just a little over 2 hours, and I wanted to show you what my cinnamon rolls look like, what they've risen to. So you can see here they've all joined together now, and they've almost come up to the top of the pan. This is where we want these. I've got my oven on 350. We're going to put these in the middle rack for about 15 to 20 minutes based on your stove, because everybody's stove cooks a little bit different. We just want these to rise up just a little bit more and get a little bit of a brown color on the top of them, and they'll be done. And then we'll be putting the glaze on them. So stay with me, and 350 on the stove, 15 minutes, I'll be back. All right, I am back. I got my cinnamon rolls here. It has been 15 minutes, and then I turned the broiler up on high for about 30 seconds just to give a little bit more brown on the top. But there they are. They smell and look incredible. I'm going to let them sit on this rack for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to make the glaze for these, and then we'll give them a taste test. So now the patience part is waiting for them to cool down a little bit, because we want our glaze to be able to settle on it. And if you put it on there while it's too hot, all it's going to do is absorb into the cinnamon bun. So let these cool down. We'll come back and we'll make some fresh glaze and we'll put on them and we'll give it a taste test. All right, I am back. It's been about 10 minutes and my cinnamon rolls, the pan is still a little warm. I don't want to burn myself, but they do feel like they've cooled down quite a bit. So I have a cup of confectioner sugar here, and I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm just going to put that in there. And we're going to give that a good mix through. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of milk. I'm going to slowly drizzle this in and mix it through. I might not use it all. I might need a little bit more. We're going to see how it is. Everybody's conditions are going to be a little bit different, as different humidities and things in people's homes are different. So let's put a little bit in and we'll mix it around and see what we got. And if I have to get some more, we'll get some more. But I'll show you what the consistency looks like that we're trying to get. All right, I think I need a little bit more milk in that, so I'm gonna go grab some milk and I'll be right back. We're getting very close to it. I hadn't put any more milk in it, but I wanted to show you it's getting there, but it's still a little lumpy. So I'm gonna put just a little bit more milk in it. It's not gonna take much more. You just want to, at this point, just drizzle it in slowly, because you can go too far with it and it'll get too runny. I think that is where I'm going to leave it. It's still nice and thick, so it was just a little bit more than 2 tablespoons, not much more. But like I say, once you get, just kind of start drizzling it once you get to about a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half, because you can get too far with it and it'll be way too runny. So at this point, this is whatever you want to do with it. You can glaze them when you take them out of the pan. You can glaze them all at one time. I'm just going to kind of drizzle it over the top of them And then if I have any extra, I might put some over each individual one of them as I'm pulling them out of the pan. And I'm not going to be shy with this. If I need to make a little bit more of this frosting here, I'm going to make some more because these are so good with it. All right, I have got an ample amount of my frosting on my cinnamon buns. These look incredible. And I'm going to take one of these out here in just a few minutes and we'll let it cool just a little bit longer. And then we'll pull one out for a taste test. So stay with me. All right, let's give these a try and see how they are. I'm just going to take a knife. It should come right out of here. We greased our pan really well with butter earlier before we put them in the oven. So I'm just going to run the knife around the outside of it. And then I'm just going to take it and kind of separate one of these out of here. Look at that. That looks absolutely delicious, doesn't it? All right, now it's time for the taste test. These are delicious. I wish you were here to share one with me. I hope this has inspired you to make cinnamon rolls. And you can see that they're really easy to make. And the frosting on these is really easy. It comes together pretty fast, as you saw that earlier. And if you like this content, maybe you might want to check out one of these other two over here. You might find something else you like. Alrighty, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I would appreciate it. And we'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now.